Morning, guys.
Good morning.
Morning. 1 minute to go.
Report.
Good morning, Attorney General.
Good morning.
Do we have Secretary Sagaski?
We do.
Okay.
Yes, I said good morning.
Oh, I didn't hear you. I'm sorry. Good morning. It's all the wind. I can't hear you. I'd like to call to order today's meeting of the State of Nevada Board of Examiners for Tuesday, September 8th, 2020 to order. Could I ask the clerk to take the roll, please?
Governor Sisolak.
Here.
Secretary of State Sagaski.
I'm here.
Attorney General Ford.
Yeah.
Let the record reflect we do have a quorum.
Thank you. This is the first time set aside for public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board on any item on today's agenda, please identify yourself for the record. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Do we have anyone in person in Carson City?
We do not.
Do we have any written public comment?
No, we don't.
Okay, I will close. Is that a phone? See your phone? Yeah. Okay. We'll close public comment, move on to item number 3, approval of the July 14th and August 11th, 2020 minutes. Do we have a motion on the minutes?
You pass?
Move approval.
We have a motion for approval and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing and seeing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 4, authorization to contract with the current or former state employee. Susan.
Good
Go ahead.
morning. This request is from the Department of Administration Purchasing Division on behalf of the Department of Employment Training and Rehabilitation to contract with a former employee to perform administrative duties for the Pandemic Unemployment Program. This individual will be employed by Manpower through MSA number 18404. Any
Do
questions?
we have, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Do we have any discussion? I'll take these two separately. Or no, there is only one, the purchasing division one, sorry. Do we have a motion on item number 4?
No questions. I'll move approval for that, but I have a question after this.
Okay. We have a motion for approval, then we can have a question. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. You have a question?
Yes, sir. Agenda item number 3 was approval of 2 different minutes. I just want to ensure that, were we supposed to take 2 different motions for the 2 different minutes, or was that motion for both minutes? What's your preference there?
Yeah, I took that as being approval for both July 14th and August 11th
I
minutes.
wanted to be certain that was good for the record.
Yeah, Susan, you got that?
Yeah.
On item 3? Okay. Item number 5, approval of master lease agreements. I won't read the whole thing, but it's about the IBM contract.
Item number 5 is a request from the Department of Administration Enterprise IT Services Division to amend a master lease agreement with IBM for mainframe storage equipment, software, and services. This amendment increases the cost of the lease by $199,084 and extends the termination date to September 30, 2023 for upgrades to hardware and software support. Are there any questions on this item?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you helped me a lot. You gave me some background on this one, and I just got some more this morning. The concern I have is this is the 7th amendment already to this lease, and I don't know how much it's been extended out, the termination date. If this is the first time there's been an extension on it, or there's been other extensions on the agreement. But I hope that we don't continue with this, better than 1 a year amendments to this lease.
For your information, Governor, this is the third amendment to the the extension, the termination date of this lease.
Okay, what was the original time?
The original time frame was the lease was not to extend beyond August 31st, 2017. The second amendment extended that to June 30th, 2021.
Okay, well, I don't know where General Ford and Secretary Sagaski stand, but at some point, I think that this has got to go out for a rebid. And now we're going on, it's extended 6 years past its original scheduled termination date. So I would hope this would be the last one. I don't know if either of you have any concern on that or any comments.
This is Barbara Sagaski, Governor, and I am somebody who is very skeptical after working with a vendor for a couple years and hearing from other states that there's issues. So I think this is one that you need explanations and that we need to get some background as to why and what the extensions are about. So I think we need a little more on that one based on your comments. And again, I do want to thank your staff for getting back to our staff as diligently as they do. They come back to us and give us the information that we've asked for. So I want to thank them for that. But this one, I just think we need to get some background. Thank you.
I appreciate your comments, and Susan, this is kind of the way I feel on this one. This is getting dragged out so low. Who is making these recommendations that it just keeps getting extended, added on, increase the amount?
I would ask Dave Hawes to answer that question.
Yes, thank you, and good morning, Governor and members of the board. For the record, this is Dave Hawes. I'm the administrator for the Enterprise IT Services Division in the Department of Administration. The lease that you're looking in front of you, it's a little bit unusual from perhaps other leases in that it's the mainframe equipment that is used to support some of our largest agencies, including DMV, Welfare, Department of Public Safety, and a little bit for DETR as well. And the reason why this amendment and this lease extends the way that it does is that when we support those particular applications for DMV, Welfare, and the other agencies that use the mainframe, keeping in mind that their particular programs and software that they use has to run on the mainframe, and they're specific to that type of environment. And so the amendments that you see and the extensions are, in essence, to support those particular business programs. We would be able to go out to, renew the lease and rebid this, but it would also require us to work with those agencies and make sure that their applications are ready to either upgrade or migrate to another environment. So the whole process would take quite a bit of coordination and time, not to say that it couldn't be done, but it would be fairly extensive to make sure that whatever hardware and software environment that was brought back in through a new lease would still continue to support that business side of things. So the amendments that you have that we've been putting into place typically is to refresh the equipment and to upgrade to newer versions of the operating software and so on in order to keep the environment viable to support the business applications. The amendment that we're working on right now is to replace some equipment that's at end of life. As that equipment starts to age, maintenance cost goes up. And so if you're either going to pay a lot more money in maintenance or you renew the equipment, which then lowers the maintenance cost. And so right now we're estimating that we'll save approximately $77,406 per year by this particular amendment. So I think in response, yes, we agree that sometimes it's difficult to see this lease keep amending and keep extending, but it is a much larger effort to coordinate that with the software that's being used in some of these larger agencies and making sure that the two are meshed together so that when you do replace this equipment, or you go with another vendor, that all of the applications continue to work. So I hope that explains a little bit about what's going on there.
Governor, this is Barbara Sagaski. I have a question for this gentleman, please.
Please, Secretary, go ahead.
I'm just curious as to why, when this originally was contracted, they didn't know about the infrastructure issues. And this is something that's new to everybody, that you had infrastructure. I mean, everybody knows that your infrastructure is old. And so I'm just curious as to why that wasn't part of the vendor's agreement to make sure that the hardware, the software, and the mainframe server were all working, and what you needed. And I mean, that wasn't determined beforehand?
For the record, Dave Hawes, EATS Administrator, in response to Madam Secretary, this is a fairly complex environment. Includes not only the mainframe, but also the supporting storage, disk storage that's required to go into it, disk drives. Also, you have tape drives that are associated with it. And all of these pieces of equipment, they have different lifespans, and so they reach different end of life at different times. And so the lease that we're managing, we have to keep that environment going in order to side. And so as these things start to age out, and to keep our maintenance costs down, that's why we end up, replacing them as part of the lease. And so, again, this is a lease. It's not a capital purchase. In order to keep that environment going and making sure that these applications are going to run, we need to refresh this software and hardware from time to time. So,
and Dave, this is Barbara again.
Yes,
and I totally understand and get what you're going through, because we're going through one of those in one of our divisions. But it's very frustrating to sit and listen to this, and the increase of money, the timing. We have one in one of our divisions. We have 8 divisions. In one of our divisions, it's been like pulling teeth, and the vendor has you. You're hooked. There's nothing you can do. You can't get out of it, and I understand that. But it is very, very frustrating, and I think the legislature, Governor, is going to have to look deeply at any of these contracts in the future and put in requirements, deadlines. I mean, ours is going into the 3rd year, and it shouldn't have gone that long. So with this, that's the only reason I'm saying anything, Dave, and I feel pain for you. I really do, because I know what we're going through, and I don't think we have a choice but to approve it. But I do have concerns about going forward, Governor, and what the legislature should look at with these vendors.
I appreciate your comments, and I couldn't agree with you more. These all, as you talk about complex environment, it was a complex environment when this was approved. I'm looking back at, the information that Susan provided me, and I appreciate it. What I'm seeing, amendment number 2, increased this maximum amount from $90,000 to a little over $1 million back in 2017. Then later it was increased in that year from $1 million to $10 million. Then it was increased to 11.7 million. Now we're well over $12 million with this lease that started as less than $100,000. Now I don't know where the checks and balances are, but what we have now is not what we bid back in 2017.
Yes, Dave Hawes, for the record, EATS Administrator. And I understand what you're saying. These leases are a little bit different when you start off with them because I believe, and this predates me, but I believe that the way that this occurred was that as you start the lease, there was only a certain piece of equipment or a portion of it that moved into a lease. But as time went by and as equipment aged that we owned, we moved more and more of it into the lease. And so over time, yes, it built up from, 90,000 to 12 million, but the reality is that it was probably a $10 million investment when we owned the equipment, and as we moved into the lease and added more and more to the lease and brought more and more of it into the lease, it increased to what it typically would have been had it been a capital purchase type of thing. So the lease has grown. I mean, it's not like the environment grew from 90,000 to a $12 million environment. It was a large environment to start off with, but as we moved into the lease, more and more structure and equipment moved into the lease as it aged out of the capital purchases. So, but I completely agree. I don't disagree. I think that we do need to take a look at it. It will be a coordinated effort between ourselves and our largest customers to make sure that whatever decision we go with there, that we have everything lined up so that if we went with a new vendor or new equipment or new environment, that it would continue to support these large agencies.
No, and I don't disagree, and I agree with the secretary that we need to approve this to keep things moving forward. But when we originally bid this, if I understand, back in whatever it was, 2016 or whatever, it was way before most of us here, or before any of this committee, it was $90,000. And that was something we bid that was different than this. If you're saying we added things on and we increased it, it's different than the $12 million contract. I fully understand that, but the RFP that we put out there that was awarded was based on $90,000, and I want to make sure we're getting the best value when suddenly the term of this is now, 100 times what it was back when this lease was originally approved, the scope of this contract. And that's problematic for me because that's not what was bid. There's so many amendments and changes and adds on that, I still want to make sure that we're not held hostage here, like when this got increased from 100,000 to 10 million, or to 1 million and then to 10 million back in 2017, I guess. So I can support extending it, but I need this thing totally reevaluated, and I don't want this extended anymore without this going out for at least an analysis with your biggest customers, how we're going to deal with this moving forward, what's the best way to handle this is, and a plan so that we don't find ourselves in the same position when this one expires. Okay, do we have any other comments or any? Is there a motion on this one? I'm taking the silence as I don't have a motion.
Well, Mr. Governor, I mean, I can make the motion contingent upon everything that you and Secretary Sagaski have indicated you'd like to see on a going forward basis, if that would be satisfactory to you.
Yeah, are you comfortable with that, Secretary Sagaski?
To be honest, Governor, any of these vendors, I think we need to check out thoroughly, but I do know that they need to go forward with what they're doing, and it's unfortunate that they have the gotcha, and that's the way that it is. So if AG Ford wants to go ahead and recommend this, I'll support you, but I do think we need more details and more information. And I think we need a discussion with the leaders in the legislature to make sure that they understand about these vendors and what's been going on.
I agree, and this is something that's fallen upon us, and it's unfortunate that we're owning it right now, but I agree wholeheartedly that with the legislature, we have to have this discussion and be able to have a better plan moving forward. So that said, we have a motion, a second on the floor. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Item number 6, approval of proposed leases.
Item number 6 includes 9 leases for approval by the board this morning. Are there any questions on any of these items?
No, again, Susan, thank you for providing the backup that I asked for on this stuff, so I'm good. Do we have a motion on item number 6?
I move approval.
We have a motion on the floor for approval. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 7, approval of proposed contracts.
There are 47 contracts in Agenda Item 7 for approval by the board this morning. Are there any additional questions on these items?
No, the only one that I had was for the Attorney General here is obviously number 1 went from 85,000 to 400 and some odd thousand potential on top end. That's something that we're gonna, I understand the complexity of this case, especially in light of the ruling from Judge Gonzalez and moving forward. I assume Attorney General, somebody's watching this close, right, this contract?
Yes, sir. I don't know if Rachel Anderson from office is on the line or not, but she did submit some answers to questions raised about this particular contract. Yeah. The complexity of this, as well as the individual lawsuits that cause conflicts, are those that led to the necessity of retaining outside counsel on these, and that's why you see the number continuing to increase. And we have outstanding litigation that remains on these as well. So that's why we have the estimate here.
Got it. Okay, I do understand it. Do we have a motion on item number 7?
I'll move approval.
We have a motion for approval on item number 7. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing, seeing, and none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 8, approval of work plan.
There is one work plan under Agenda Item 8 for approval by this board this morning.
Okay, do we have any questions on this item?
None here.
We have I assume this is a work plan that we have to use an out-of-town company again? Do we have any Nevada companies bid on this? Are there any Nevada companies that do this work? I don't even know.
Yeah. I think the Department of Administration is the entity there, or maybe they can answer that question.
I don't know the answer to that question. This did go out to bid, so it's possible that others did bid on this, but I don't have that information available right now.
Okay, if you could just reiterate to all of our departments that when we seek bids, that we do whatever we can to make sure that we try to get Nevada bids from companies. That being said, do I have a motion on item number 8?
Move approval.
A motion for approval, any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 9, approval of proposed master service agreements.
There are 6 master service agreements in Agenda Item number 9 for approval by the board this morning. Are there any questions on any of these items?
I do not have any questions. Do we have any questions on this?
None here.
None.
Okay, well, 4 of the 6 are from Nevada, so that's a good thing, at least 2/3 of them. We have a motion for approval. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 10, information item, clerk of the board contracts.
There were 36 contracts under the $50,000 threshold that were approved by the clerk between July 21st, 2020 and August 17th, 2020. Are there any questions on any of these informational items?
Yep, item number 1, my question to you regarding the weight of boxing gloves, I think this was, from Wayne State University. This is, the funding source is really not correct on this, is that right?
That is correct. This is funded with fees, not with the general fund.
Okay. I just want to make that notation for the record so that the athletic commission pays this one, not general fund. Do we have a motion? This is a information item. I don't need a motion on this item. Item number 11.
Item number 11 contains 2 items. The first is a report on overtime and accrued compensatory leave for the 4th quarter of fiscal year 2020. My staff summarized the report into a 2-page summary, so I'm not going to read the details, but I'll hit a couple highlights. For fiscal year 2020, overtime pay and compensatory leave account for a total of approximately $48.05 million, or 4.25% of total pay. This is a 3.9% increase from fiscal year 2019. The Department of Corrections had the highest amount of overtime and comp time at $3.77 million, or 8.3% of their base pay, followed by the Department of Health and Human Services at $1.97 million, or 3.03% of base pay, and the Department of Public Safety at $1.96 million, or 7.7% of base pay. For the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020, the Department of Corrections incurred $15.3 million in overtime and comp time, or 9.11% of base pay, while the Department of Health and Human Services has incurred $10.2 million in overtime and comp time, or 3.17% of base pay. Those two agencies account for 53.3% of overtime and comp time for fiscal year 2020. I would also note that as a percentage of base salary, the Department of Veteran Services had the highest overtime at 10.39%. This was followed by the Department of Corrections and then the Department of Public Safety. Are there any questions on this overtime report?
I do not have any questions. Do we have any questions on this?
None here.
None.
Okay, that's an information item. That completes number 11?
We have one more item under number 11. The second item is an informational report on the available balances in the various contingency accounts managed by the Board of Examiners or the Interim Finance Committee as of August 27th, 2020. These accounts are available to cover various contingencies through the 2019-2021 biennium, and I would be happy to answer any questions you may have on this item.
Any questions on item number 11B?
None here.
Okay, seeing none, that concludes item number 11. Item number 12 is public comment. This is the second time set aside for public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board on any item, please step forward, identify yourself for the record. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. We have no one in Las Vegas. Do we have anyone in Carson City?
We do not.
Do we have any written comment?
No, we don't.
Okay, do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
We have a motion on the floor. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We are adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Thanks, everybody. Great day.
Thank you.